I discovered America in my 40s, coming from Russia, and I was instantly impressed with the American dream, with how Americans feel about freedom, and with how Americans eat. A lovely Christian couple, Margie and Ray, invited me for my first ever American dinner, and I was really excited and even skipped my breakfast and lunch. And they turned out to be perfect American hosts, and I was a Russian guest at my best behavior, and that dinner turned into a clash of civilizations. It started nicely though. I brought a gift with me, and in my culture, the hosts usually don't open the gift in front of the guest in order not to embarrass the guest. And I really love that custom because I'm very bad at giving gifts. I couldn't come up with anything better than six-pack tea cups, and I was hoping, I knew that Margie and Ray, who had been married for over 20 years, probably had enough cups in their house, and I didn't want to see their disappointed faces as they discovered that I brought them 6 more identical cups. But Margie instantly opened my present, and I instantly panicked. She said, "Oh, I've been looking for this kind of set for my church." And I thought, oh, I figured it right for the first time in my life. But later I learned that this is a nice American tradition to open and praise the gift in front of the guest. Next, they invited me to the table, and that presented my next cultural shock, because they put me at the wrong side of the table. I felt uncomfortable, and I said, in my patriarchal Russian culture, the man of the house usually sits opposite to the door, and the guest sits on his right, and the wife sits on his left, and you put me on the wife's spot. Ray said, well, in our American gender equal culture, if you walk into a room and see a man and a woman sitting at the end of the table next to the kitchen, usually they are the hosts because they want to just bring food from the kitchen to the table. I said, oh, that makes sense. And then Margie said, or if you walk into a room and see a woman sitting alone at the end of the table and a man sitting alone at the other end of the table, far away from the kitchen, they are also hosts, but the husband doesn't cook. I said, let me guess, both of you cook. After that, Ray said, let's say thanks, praise to God for the food. And we bowed our heads. And I'm a Muslim. And observing how this Christian couple prayed, I realized that Muslim and Christian customs are much closer than American and Russian ones. And I enthusiastically joined them and thanked God for the food. It turned out, however, that I thanked God in vain, because they never gave me any food. To be fair, they offered me food, but they never gave it to me. They said, as soon as we finished the prayer, they said, help yourself, and started putting meat, sauce, and salad into their own plates. And I was left alone facing my empty plate. And I'm not from a helping yourself culture. Margie at some point said, you should try the meatballs. It's a family recipe. But I couldn't do that because they were far away and I'd have to stand up to reach for them. So I helped myself for the salad which was closest to me. And when Ray got up to help himself to get the meatballs, I instinctively stopped chewing and hoped that he would drop a couple of meatballs into my plate on the way to his own. But he never did that, and I only smelled this delicious smell of meatballs, and my stomach growled at me, "Feed me." Then I thought, apparently they think that I'm a vegetarian, and probably they think that I'm not hungry, but I wished they didn't think I was not thirsty. My mouth got so dry that at some point I had to cough in order to clear my throat. And Margie said, "Are you okay? Would you like some water?" And I said, "No, thank you." Because in my culture, the guest never says yes. Looking back, I understand that Margie really wanted to give me water. And that's one of the main differences between our cultures, because when an American says words, "Would you like some water?" she actually means those words. Because America is a verbal culture, while I am from a body language culture. And unless she takes the picture and makes a move toward my empty glass, I'm not sure if she wants to give me the water. But even in that case, I'm supposed to say, "No, thank you," which means, "Yes, please." It means, "Yes, please," unless I also make a body move and block my empty glass, which I wouldn't do because I was thirsty. Actually, at some point, Ray was close to giving me water. When Margie asked him to refill her glass, he did that and then made a move with the pitcher. "Some water?" And I got really hopeful, and I said, "No, thank you." Which meant, "Yes, please," because I didn't block the traffic between water and my glass. But Ray didn't pick up on my body language and put the water back on the table. The issue is that Russians consider as a good behavior to say no at least 23 times. It might seem weird to Americans, but Russians experienced several famines and food scarcity before and after World War II. And when a Russian guest is offered the food, the guest usually assumes that it might be the last food that the hosts have and says, "No, thank you," which kind of means that, "Are you sure you have enough food to feed me?" And if the hosts really mean to feed you, then they give you food. So I'll confess, I was glad when the dinner was over. And I was glad to get up and say thank you very much for the wonderful dinner, and now I have to go home and eat and drink because I'm hungry and I'm thirsty. But before I said anything, they started collecting the dishes from the table and brought them to the sink and started washing the dishes. Never before in my life I saw the host so eager to wash the dishes before the guest left. But that was not all of it. Suddenly, Margie turned around, smiled at me, and said something that blew my mind. She said, "Would you like to wash the dishes with us?" And they made me wash their dishes. Later I learned that this is another sweet American tradition. They wanted me to feel at home and be part of the family. But at that point I lost the sense of what was going on. It took me a while to get over the cultural shock from my first American dinner. But eventually I learned to be a true American and say yes please instead of no thank you. And if you invite me to your house now, I'll be happy to help myself to your food.